Though Bungie employees said leadership had assured them there would be absolutely no layoffs and nothing major in terms of reconstructing once the deal closes with Sony. Now, this was a launcher article from 2 years ago, and fast forward to 2024, Bungie has laid off 17% of his work. To be more specific, 220 employees have been laid off from Bungie, the studio behind Destiny 2, which has had the most success in recent years with their DLC as far as the Final Shape expansion. Now, where did all this money go to lead to these layoffs? Because the world has to figure out why a company is laying off all these people in the midst of just 2 years ago, letting them know that they're not going to go anywhere after the Sony acquisition. Well, another tidbit that I have to show you, make sure to go to Analytic Dreamz video on Spotify to see the video along with the audio. For my podcast platforms out there, go to Spotify, Analytic Dreamz video to see the video along with the audio. Right now, I'm playing a very interesting video. Now, what is this video, you might ask? Well, the CEO, which is Pete Parsons, reportedly spent over $2.3 million buying classic cars after the Sony acquisition. Now, overall, if you're going to lay off your employees by saying that there's financial strain amongst the company, and that's the reason for the reconstructing as far as laying off people, then you probably wouldn't want the public to know that your CEO is out here spending $2.3 million on classic cars. And to be more specific, the overall deal with these specific cars can be found on this website right here titled bringatrailer.com. So if you want to see the actual website he went to bid for these cars that he ended up winning, it's like over 60 cars, mind you, right? So when this happens, I mean, I'm playing the video, but this is the actual site you can go to. Once again, Analytic Dreamz video on Spotify to see the video along with the audio. But you go to this website, and this is the actual website that he purchased these cars from. So laying off people, laying off people, a significant amount of people, reducing your company workforce from 1,300 to about 850 employees is very interesting when the actual CEO is out here buying over 20 vintage cars that's worth $2.3 million. So when that same person comes out and cites the reason for the layoffs being development costs, industry shifts, and economic conditions as far as reconstructing, you best believe that people are going to call cap. And that is why people are coming out putting this on Front Street as far as his amount of exorbitant purchases for vintage cars, saying that the players and workers need to support each other. Because obviously these companies don't care about you. Because if they're just gonna change your whole life by laying you off and also throw all this money at vintage cars in the midst of them telling you the reason for them laying you off is because of economic conditions, then it's just a slap in the face, and they're basically saying that they could care less about your financial status. As Bungie, who I'm gonna keep reiterating, is the developers of Destiny 2, which just had its most successful expansion to date with the Final Shape expansion. So with that DLC being extremely successful, and not only that, for $3.6 billion to come to Bungie as far as the deal with Sony Interactive Entertainment back in 2022, and fast forward to 2024, and they've laid off 17% of the workforce. I mean, you could probably understand why everybody is so upset, creating a lot of public backlash, and are calling for the resignation of the CEO simply for the fact that he's basically spinning the truth and telling people one thing when information tells us another. The objective information tells us that this man is out here splurging on vehicles and laying off people at the same time. So make that make sense, right? So Bungie has reportedly come out saying that they're at a financial loss and that the revenue targets have been missed by a significant margin, and that the situation is in the red due to overly ambitious projects and financial mismanagement. But you know who really is out here mismanaging their finances? The CEO. So if you have the CEO, Pete Parsons, out here mismanaging his finances, and then he goes at the workers, laying them off, I mean, you can automatically assume that they're going to use this public information to tell the people that maybe, just maybe, they are laying you off because they just don't care about your financial status. They make all these different bonuses off of the deals that they just did with Sony. And as far as the financial health, Sony can obviously contribute to them now with them being under Sony, but ultimately Bungie is just out here doing large scale acquisitions as far as vehicles instead of large scale acquisitions when it comes to talented game developers. Financial resources and human capital should be a much higher priority than paying for classic cars. And this wouldn't have been a problem if you would have kept everybody under the workforce. But because of so many people losing their jobs, it's simply for the fact that the gluttony, the greed, the overall ambitions to have what most people don't, as far as a bunch of different vehicles. It's just very not basically, he's not concerned with his workers. The main thing that he's concerned with is paying for these different vehicles, because if you're buying rare automobiles every 60 days before laying off people, I mean, at that point, I don't even know what to say, because strategic movements needs to happen for people to believe that the company is going to keep you afloat. And right now, it seems like they could care less. They're just blowing the bag that they received from Sony. They're blowing the bag on everything but the actual workers who helped them get this deal in the first place. And if you want to know, Bungie was acquired by Sony in 2022, like I said earlier, as far as the 3.6 billion with a B. So when you get all that money and then give none of it to the workforce, or not even none of it, but if you cut off 17% of the workforce, you wonder where that money is actually going. Like, where are they putting these dollars towards? And the whole, we're not financially well off to have this many people under the workforce, whenever you just put out your most, and this is objectively the most successful downloadable content to date for Destiny 2, the flagship game under the company, as far as the Final Shape expansion. So with that being said, this is being a consistent theme throughout the gaming industry. I mean, I can't even tell you how many companies are out here laying off their employees. But to be fair, when those companies lay off their employees, there's not public information, public sites to where they show the CEO out here purchasing vehicles, and not even one, not two, not 10, 20, 30, but 60 vehicles for $2.3 million. You get to understand why there's so much backlash as far as public reaction. So nobody knows what's going to happen in the future when it comes to the CEO, Pete Parsons. But what we do know is that a lot of people lost their jobs simply for the gluttony and greed of a company. And sometimes when you're working for a company, you should probably realize that they could care less about you. So usually it's in your best interest to make sure that you would be financially okay if they indeed lay you off. Even, like I said, 2 years ago, even if they give you a statement in 2 years ago, basically telling you that they have no plans for layoffs, especially once they reconstruct the deal with Sony. So that's basically all I have. I mean, this situation with Bungie is just, it's completely insane. It's very interesting that this is the type of decision they went to go with, because overall, I think laying off this many people, especially having like 1.2 billion as far as retention incentive plan to keep employees as they purchase Bungie, is very interesting how Sony incentivized them to keep their employees, but the CEO could care less. So overall, click my link tree in my bio. Let me know one of my social medias. What do you think about Bungie just completely laying off 17% of the employees at the same time when the CEO is out here paying 5.3 million for vintage vehicles? I don't know, 2.3 million for classic cars during the midst of these layoffs? What do you think about that? And what is the overall takeaway from this Bungie situation?